humble venture started by Sri Keval Ram Gupta about 60 years ago. With a mission to serve the cause of education, we have grown today to a company with presence in over 25,000 schools and more than 10 countries. We sell around 10 million books every year. Our team works dedicatedly to help learners, teachers, and everyone continue to carry the philosophy of our founder of literary and scholarly achievements in all aspects of the teaching learning process. We bring the best of the latest technologies and pedagogies from all over the world and build curriculum resources based on our traditional Indian learning values. Our well-designed books are used in thousands of schools across the country. These books help students each day to enjoy the process of learning. We work with eminent authors to gain from their experience and share their knowledge and skills with teachers across the world. The books come with substantial or adequate support for teachers in the form of online resources, tests, teaching pedagogies to empower them to teach effectively and meet all the demands and challenges of a modern classroom. Regular workshops and seminars ensure that we provide teachers with continuous training and support to equip them with necessary skills and provide a platform for sharing their ideas and experiences. We have always believed that we must work together with all institutions in education continue to improve and grow. Goyal Brothers today is proud to share this knowledge with the rest of the world through Goyal Overseas. Goyal Brothers wants to become a part of the life of the learner. We have ventured into school uniforms by the name of Unithreads and stationery by the name of First Choice to uphold the standards of quality that our young learners deserve. Learning happens both inside and outside of the classroom. Our digital learning platforms, Meritbox and Bright Tutee, provide learners with access to high-quality content in formats that are easy to understand and make learning enjoyable. Meritbox gives complete digital support to the learners and educators and helps complement the books published by Goyal Brothers Prakashan. Meritbox is a tool that makes learning fun and enhances the features of our books. Bright Tutee is a digital learning app for the learners which learning easy at any given time or place at their own pace. Bright Tutee provides the content of 20 different boards of India and it based strictly according to the syllabus. It helps in better conceptual understanding and helps the child with self-assessment and exam preparation with ample content to practice and revise. The content are based on the examination pattern prescribed by respective state boards. Goyal Brothers Prakashan.
On to that. Discussion. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Goyal Brothers Prakashan is a well-known, one of the oldest educational publishing houses in India. A humble venture started by Sri Keval Ram Gupta about 60 years ago. With a mission to serve the cause of education, we have grown today to a company with presence in over 25,000 schools and more than 10 countries. We sell around 10 million books every year. Our team works dedicatedly to help learners, teachers, and everyone involved with education. We continue to carry the philosophy of our founder of literary and scholarly achievements in all aspects of the teaching learning process. We bring the best of the latest technologies and pedagogies from all over the world and build curriculum resources based on our traditional Indian learning values. Our well-designed books are used in thousands of schools across the country. These books help students each day to enjoy the process of learning. We work with eminent authors to gain from their experience and share their knowledge and skills with teachers across the world. The books come with substantial or adequate support for teachers in the form of online resources, tests, teaching pedagogies to empower them to teach effectively and meet all the demands and challenges of a modern classroom. Regular workshops and seminars ensure that we provide teachers with continuous training and support to equip them with necessary skills and provide a platform for sharing their ideas and experiences. We have always believed that we must work together with all institutions in education continue to improve and grow. Goyal Brothers today is proud to share this knowledge with the rest of the world through Goyal Overseas. Goyal Brothers wants to become a part of the life of the learner. We have ventured into school uniforms by the name of Unithreads and stationery by the name of First Choice to uphold the standards of quality that our young learners deserve. Learning happens both inside and outside of the classroom. Our digital learning platforms, Meritbox and Bright Tutee, provide learners with access to high-quality content in formats that are easy to understand and make learning enjoyable. Meritbox gives complete digital support to the learners and educators and helps complement the books published by Goyal Brothers Prakashan. Meritbox is a tool that makes learning fun and enhances the features of our books. Bright Tutee is a digital learning app for the learners which learning easy at any given time or place at their own pace. Bright Tutee provides the content of 20 different boards of India and it based strictly according to the syllabus. It helps in better conceptual understanding and helps the child with self-assessment and exam preparation with ample content to practice and revise. The content are based on the examination pattern prescribed by respective state boards. Goyal Brothers
A very good evening to all our participants. Goyal Brothers Prakashan and Bright Tutee welcomes you all to the webinar on cultivating reading habits amongst our students. We also welcome all our participants who are with us on YouTube and Bright Tutee channel. This webinar was planned based on the CBSE circular, My Book, My Friend, and we have with us on high demand and request and wonderful feedback that we always receive for Jyoti ma'am. We have with us Ms. Jyoti Swaroop as our guest speaker once again today. She has an experience in the field of education for over 42 years, and she has specializes in English language teaching. I'm sure we will all enjoy the webinar today and be able to enhance the reading skills of our students. Thank you. We'll wait for another 2 to 3 minutes for other
Yeah, we'll wait for
participants.
5 minutes. We are
Five
waiting
minutes?
for participants to join in at Bright
Okay.
Duty.
So we'll begin at
Yeah.
4:05. We'll wait for another 4 5 minutes. Thank you. Once again, a very good evening to all our participants here. Goyal Brothers Prakashan and Bright Tutee welcomes you all to this webinar on cultivating reading habits amongst our students. We also welcome our participants who are with us on YouTube and Bright Tutee. Jitin, shall we begin the session or are we still waiting for participants to join in? You there, Jitin?
Yes, we'll wait for another 2 minutes, please, and then we
Okay,
can start.
all right.
Yes, we can start now, I think.
All right, ma'am, we can start now. Ma'am, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have.
Thank you, ma'am. You can begin the session now, ma'am.
All right.
Yeah,
Can
thank
we remove this? Can I talk to them? Can we remove the image?
Yes. Jitin, remove the video.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everybody. I can see lots of people, over 1,000. I think it's going to be a challenge to retain the interest of everyone. So we're going to have a discussion, right? So we are in the not post-COVID, right in the middle of COVID. And we're trying to do things differently. And I definitely would not want to just talk to you. You are going to participate and talk to me shortly. So we're going to start with the importance of reading. Now, first of all, I want to know how many of you read? How many of you read? Can I just hear a quick yes, I do? Yes, Vice Principal. How many of you read? Yes, no sound. Okay, if there is no sound, I think you have to check it at your end. All right, yes, I do, voraciously. Oh, I'm glad that you're all awake. Yes, I do. Some read, yes, a lot. All right, I was just reading. I'm sure, I don't know how many of you read. Now, I'm not going to come to the question of what do you read, right? So we'll just hold that for a while. I was just reading quite coincidentally just before I started. Still, there is a good number of saying, yes, you read. That's very good. I think in this age, we should be grateful that we all read. It doesn't matter what we read as long as we do read. As I was just saying, just before I came on air, I was just reading something. I was looking at my phone and I was just reading this little line which says that Elon Musk, have you heard of Elon Musk? Elon Musk, who now has a very ambitious space program. Elon Musk reads 2 books a week. He reads 2 books a week, and he still reads 2 books a week. Warren Buffett, who is a great thinker, reads 500 pages every day. Everyone reads. I think we are in this age where we are so hooked onto digital. We are hooked onto TV. We are hooked onto everything that moves in front of our face. So good old-fashioned reading habits are quite gone. The teachers among you, particularly the English teachers or the language teachers, are probably moaning that children don't read anymore. Now, I'm not surprised that children don't read anymore because adults don't read anymore. Am I right? Adults don't read anymore, so children don't read anymore. Adults these days can only be seen with the phone or the TV remote in your hand. If I ever have a phone in one hand and a TV remote in the other, that is what my grandchildren are going to see, and that is what they are going to imitate. So if we want our children to read, one of the first things we have to do, yes, someone is saying that, let me look at your chats. Someone is saying that children imitate adults. Yes, of course they do. I'm just going to quote you some lines which I quote wherever I go. A part of my background is, I do not know if you have heard of the company Scholastic. We shouldn't be talking about other companies. I used to work in Scholastic. In fact, I was the one of the very early ones who started Scholastic company in India. I used to go around to schools around the country talking to children at assemblies. And one of the things I used to say, I'm just going to quote you 4 lines, which I read somewhere. I want you to listen. Are we listening? Are we listening? Right. So here are these wonderful lines I read somewhere, and I'm grateful to them all my life. The lines are, you may have all the wealth in the world. You may have coffers of silver and caskets of gold. I repeat those lines. You may have all the wealth in the world, coffers of silver and caskets of gold. Richer than I you can never be, because I had a mother who read to me, right? So I'll repeat those lines. You may have all the wealth in the world, coffers of silver and caskets of gold. Richer than I you can never be, because I had a mother who read to me. So, and I think if we don't say mothers these days, we should be saying, I had a teacher who read to me. I was fortunate enough to have a mother and a teacher who read to me. I was one of those girls who was always in the library. I would pick up so many books. Those days, which is about 50 or 55 years back, my principal had told the librarian, when this girl comes to the library, give her as many books as you can. And probably all that reading helped me to start Scholastic when we brought in Scholastic into the country. Right. So I'm just going to read another poem to you about reading, and then we'll open up the discussion. Jitin, can I have that poem up, please?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just going to put up a poem which you all can see, and then I'm going to throw it open for discussion to all of us. Right. So this is a poem called Books. You may have heard of the poet. If you're an English teacher particularly, you may have heard of Elena Fargen, and this is her poem. What worlds of wonder are our books as one opens them and looks. New ideas and people rise in our fancies and our eyes. The room we sit in melts away, and we find ourselves at play with someone who before the end may become a chosen friend. Or we sail along the page to some other land or age, body in the chair, but our mind is over there. Can you push that page up? Each the magic box, which with a touch a child unlocks. In between their outside cover, book holds all things covers, right? It's a lovely poem on books. And this poem is by a poet called Elena Fargen. Elena Fargen, Fargeon. You can check up that book. It is there. It is available. Right. So I'm just going to throw it open to you now. I'm going to ask you, why should we read? Why should we read? What are the advantages of reading? Lovely poem, yes, Nazia Arora. Last line was not visible. Yes, last lines were not visible. We will read that again a little later. Right, so we are, okay, last line is there for now. Each book is a magic which with a touch, a child unlocks in between their outside covers. Books hold all things for their lovers. All right, so we are looking at why are we reading? Why should we read? It improves knowledge, gives you knowledge and mental peace, enhances your vocabulary. It's a great source of entertainment. Knowledge, entertainment, vocabulary, exposure to literature. Reading is a pleasure, nourishes the mind. I'm reading your comments. I'm reading your comments. Books are our best friends, Arvinder. Why? To escape into a world the author wants us to, yes. You can explore with reading. Books are our best friends, yes. Flights of imagination, language development, takes you into nature, takes you on to an intellectual level, reduces stress, clarity of thought, activity develops, yes, enriches our knowledge, clarity in writing, food is to the body, what soul is to the mind, gives wings to imagination, vocabulary enhancement, yes, sensitivity to life around. You feel relaxed, yes, makes you relaxed, transports you, never betrays you. I love that line, never betrays you. Interplay between the spoken and the written. Oh, I love that. Interplay between the spoken and the written word. Okay. It makes you reach out to different places, kills boredom, imagination skills. Go on, I'm reading. Gets all your attention, yes, gets your attention and gets your attention in a good way. Exercise to the mind, interpretation of ideas, interpretation, best investment with my, yes, that's a wonderful line. Knowledge is wealth. That's a great line. You read just happy, Lakshmi Narayan. Excellent. I love that line. You just read to be happy. What other reason do you need? Improves concentration. Oh, that's lovely, Rashi. Best empathizers, best empathizers. किसी ने हिंदी में लिखा, I can't read that fast. All right. Imagination improves grammar. Yes, Arushi. Improves, aids sleep. Okay, as soon as you pick up a book, you go to sleep. Food for the soul and mind. A good book is better than a good 1,000 friends, particularly these days. I agree. I agree. Right? Improves your vocabulary, relaxes you. Embraces humanity. Gauri Mathur, I love that. Embraces humanity. It develops empathy in you, gives you a sharp mind. I hope you're all reading what others are writing. Please read. It's a treasure for life. It connects people. It does. You can tour the world without going anywhere. Anjali, yes. New thoughts. Komal Mahajan connects the world. Develops a personality. Parminder, yes. Seema. Acha, aap Hindi maybe, I'm not too good with Hindi. Right? Sometimes it proves to be a problem solver. Increases your GK, connects you to an advanced world. Right. Okay, great many thoughts. I'm going to capture some of these. I already have some of these on a PowerPoint, which will come a little later. When the PowerPoint is on, you can take pictures, you can take photographs, and you can, or you can have the PowerPoint sent to you. I'm still reading, just read for simple pleasure. That's good for no other reason, but just that. Right. All right. So we've come across so many. I'm going to capture it all in a PowerPoint, which we will discuss later. I just want you all to tell me Give me the names of authors. Anything that you read creates precious thoughts. Now I'm asking you a question. What do you read? J.K. Rowling, I just want to know what you read. What kind, whether you read what William Shakespeare, author Robin Sharma, I just want all kinds of books. Ruskin Bond, authors, Gulzar, yes, yes. I'm just asking you now, what are the different kinds of authors? Shiv Khera, yes. Fiction, yes. Shabnam, Chetan Bhagat, Sonia, yes. Chetan Bhagat. Think of children. One is what you read, and also think of Dan Brown. Yes, I read Dan Brown. I read Robin Sharma, yes. Shakespeare, of course, Dale Carnegie. They are a different, we'll categorize them into genres. Spiritual books, Silky, you read, good. P.B. Shelley was a poet, yes. Thomas Higginson, Mitch Albom, of course, R.K. Narayan. Right, I'm asking you all kinds of authors. I just want to know what are the names of authors you are. Dale Carnegie, yes, go on. William Wordsworth was a poet. Think of books, Elizabeth Gilbert, yes. Paulo Coelho, George Orwell, R.K. Narayan, yes. Think of also read. Think of books that children also read, like reading books. J.K. Rowling, John Milton. Milton was a poet, yes. Ruskin Bond, William Blake. These are all poets. History of Tom Jones, Henry Fielding, oh yes, of course. Shiv Khera, Munshi Premchand, APJ Abdul Kalam, Geronimo Stilton. Okay, I'm sure you're a student. Geronimo Stilton, Stephen Covey, great. So we are just Sudha Murthy, yes. Right, I think what we have done is Enid Blyton, yes, of course, Enid Blyton. I grew up on Enid Blyton. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, yes. Arup Kumar Datta, yes. Daily, okay, all right, fine. So I think what we have come across is we've talked of Bhishma Sahani. Yes, we've also watched serials of Bhishma Sahani. Louisa May Alcott, classics. Isaac Asimov's scientific fiction, Dan Brown. All right, Geronimo Stilton, yes, children read Geronimo Stilton. Tenali Rama, of course, Tenali Rama, Akbar Birbal, the whole lot. Amrita Manto, James Herriot. All right. So let's take a pause there. And let's discuss. Right, so now we've talked of different kinds of books as you Hardy Boys, comics, and that is still going on. We did two things right now. We talked about the importance of reading. Let me just recap what you told me. Why we need to read. When we say read, we're not just talking about picking up a phone and reading, right? So the phone is there, it's very convenient. Nothing like hard old. These days, of course, you have the option of digital. You can read from Kindle. Let me recap what you have told me about the importance of reading. Reading, of course, in the first place, is very important to improve your language skill. It improves communication. It improves creative writing. It helps you with grammar. It helps you with the vocabulary. It enhances your language skills. And I think there are greater benefits by reading, particularly in today's world. It opens up your mind. It broadens your thinking. It gives you a different perspective to life. It helps you to understand other people. It helps you to understand other cultures. It's like travel. I both read and I travel. Right? So traveling is like reading a good book for me and vice versa. So when we talked of the different authors that we have today, we're talking of two things. I don't know if there are children also watching this. So I'm addressing teachers. We're talking to teachers and we're saying how teachers can improve the habit of reading. First of all, when it comes to reading, just get children to read. Read whatever you want, read whatever you like. Let children start reading, even teachers, if you are not in the habit of reading. I don't read as much as I used to, but I keep at least 2 books going. And when I was a child, I probably came back from the library with 10 to 20 books. So keep one book going. When I talk of reading, it is just about, there are two kinds of things you could start reading. One, read just what you like to read. If it's a magazine, if it's a newspaper, or if it is anything. And two, read what you ought to be reading. Now, when we are getting children to read, it's very important for us to get them to read whatever they want. Let's look at the kind of genre that we talked about. We talked about books right from classics. I'm not saying classics is right on top. I'm not saying classics is the best thing that you can read, right? I get my inspiration from even a WhatsApp forward. We can read anything that we want to read, a WhatsApp forward, so you have classics like Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters, Shakespeare, poetry. And then you have the short story writers or modern classics. We have Ruskin Bond. So we have authors who are living with us, authors who are dead and gone and who we still read. We have Indian authors in writing. We have authors from outside. It doesn't really matter what kind of books that we are talking about. And some of the books that you spoke of was Dale Carnegie and Warren Buffett and Robin Sharma. And these are all the kind of books which we talk of, inspirational books, motivational books. You talked of Stephen Covey. So there are books for the heart, there are books for the soul, and there are books for the mind. So it doesn't matter what you read as long as you pick up a book and you read. Let's have a quick conversation about, I'm just getting back to our conversation. So there are still so many books that we are reading. Right. How can we get our children to read? That's the next conversation I'm opening up to you. How can we get children to read? How can we get children to read? So we're still, print media is for readers, digital. PUBG is not good for health. Yes. My next question to you is, how can we get children? Read out to them, Vice Principal. Yes. Read out to them, making books available to them. We read, they will read. Yes. Now we are going on to the next part of our question is, how can we get children to read? If we read, they read. Carry a book, read in front of them. Yes. By reading with them, be an example to them, read out to children. Reading aloud is a very essential aspect of reading. Read them a story every night, particularly if they are children, if they are very young children. Gift them books, yes, gift them books. Give a book as a surprise. Inspire them. Inspire children to read. Yes, you can set an example. Pictorial representation captures their imagination, yes. Telling them some facts of life, yes. Telling them a story and asking them to find it in the newspaper. Give them personalized book, characters which have their name. Those are also available. You have animated books. Share some aspect of a book and wonderful ideas which are coming from you. Keep an interesting collection of books. If I turn the computer around where I'm talking to you, you will find that I have hordes and hordes of books. Do book reviews. Give them books. Give them books, keep books available. I think one of the most important things about getting children to read is keep books available. Tell them stories, speak about characters. Yes, book corners, show them pictures. All right. Take them to a bookshop. Yes, excellent. Take them to a bookshop by reading and telling them new stories. Yes. Right. Author visits, yes. Author visits. By giving them simple reading challenges, yes. I've got a few ideas coming up. I'm just interested to know what you are thinking. Tell them about good writer story, visiting libraries, Jyoti Grover, yes. All right. Okay, so let me just get up my PowerPoint. Jitin, can I have the PowerPoint, please? Reading
Yeah.
comprehensions. Yes. We'll just take up the PowerPoint and I will just discuss this as we go along. So you can keep your conversations going. You can keep your ideas coming. Right. So I have another little poem for you here. Can I just have that full slide completely, Jitin?
Sorry.
Yeah, just move. Can you move up the slide? I can't see the full thing. Can they see the full slide?
Yes. They can see the full slide.
Okay, okay. So just to recap what we have talked about, here are some lovely lines about the importance of reading and what books do to us. This appears to be a poem for kids, but it's really a poem which is true for anyone. Books are great. Books are fun. Books let you do what you've never done. Read a good mystery. This is if there are kids here, if there are teachers amongst us. These are the kind of books that we can get children to read. Read a good mystery, solve a crime. Children love reading mystery books. We love reading mystery books. I love reading Dan Brown. I love reading David Baldacci, right? I love reading Jeffrey Archer. So I'm a student of literature. I read probably the highest or the most spiritual of books. And I also read, there's no question of either or, you read any kind of books. So if we're talking about children reading, this particular workshop has to do with my book, My Friend. It's circular, came from CBSE. All schools, we need to motivate our children to read, pick up a book. There are so many kids now who are doing the PUBG or they are into digital formats. Reading, nothing like to me, nothing like the good old hard way of reading, holding a book in your hand. There are also a lot of books available. There are animated books available on YouTube. You can buy animated books. You can download ebooks. There are lots of books on Kindle. So let's look at the genre of books. This poem gives you a kind of idea of the genre that we can read. Read a good mystery, solve a crime. Read about history, go back in time. So this is another genre that we are talking about. We're talking about mystery books. When we talk of mystery, I think we right from what adults read. There is this guy called Ravi Subramaniam who writes Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes, Conan Doyle. And if we go back to childhood, if there are children here or the kind of books that we would like children to read, Enid Blyton books, Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys. I mean, these are the kind of books that we all grew up with. So history books, history could be, I also keep picking up Shashi Tharoor's books about the British in India. You cannot read a book like that throughout. You can just pick it up and read whenever you want. History books, there are historical fiction. You don't need to just read history books. There are books on historical fiction. Read about a lost dog, or where can it be? Read about a giant frog under the sea. These are books for kids, which really stirs up their imagination. Read a funny book, tears go away. Read a bright, sunny book on a rainy day. Books are great, books are fun. Let's read books, everyone. I think this is what is wonderful about this poem. You have different kind of genres and read anything that you like. Can we go to the next slide, please? Right, so just a little more about reading, just to a little bit of an intro before we go into why we should read. Books are companions, sources of entertainment, information, manuals, and a spring of ideas and experience. I think this about captures all that we said. Some of you who talked about books are our best friends, they are companions, sources of entertainment, information, instruction manuals, springs of ideas. Look at that next line. This is truly inspirational. If we can quote this to our students, if there are teachers among us, and if we can quote this to our students, to them the importance of reading. The more you read, the more you know. The more you know, the smarter you grow. The smarter you grow, the stronger your mind. The stronger your mind in speaking your mind or making your choice. The more you read, the more you know. The more you know, the smarter you grow. So reading gives you knowledge, and the smarter you grow. The smarter you grow, the stronger your voice. There's a mistake there. The stronger your voice in speaking your mind or making your choice. So let me repeat those lines. The more you read, the more you know. The more you know, the smarter you grow. The smarter you grow, the stronger your voice in speaking your mind or making your choice. This is the wonderful thing about reading. Opens up your imagination, gives you knowledge, gives you information, gets you to be smart. When you go smart, you become strong. Why do you need strength? Whether you are a child or a woman or a man, you can speak your mind and you make your choice. Can we have the next slide, please?
Ma'am, can we take a break now for 2 minutes and then come back?
Oh, sure. Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, we'll take a
4:37. We'll take a break and we'll be
Sure,
back.
sure. We will,
Thank
we
you.
will, we will.
Thank you.
Bright Tutee is India's most comprehensive, student-friendly and result-oriented digital learning platform. Download today the Bright Tutee app from Google Play Store and get the comprehensive digital learning course prepared by competent and experienced teachers and subject matter experts. At Bright Tutee, you get courses of different boards that are based on the syllabus, prescribed textbooks, and examination guidelines of the respective board. These courses are available in 3 mediums. For Hindi medium students, the courses are available in Hindi language. For English medium students, the courses are available in English and also in bilingual, that is Hindi and English both. The courses are available in many subjects, including mathematics, science, social science, English, and Hindi on Bright Tutee. All the courses of Bright Tutee are based on 3 steps approach: learning, assessment, and exam preparation. In learning, you have topic-wise video to help you in understanding each topic easily. Each video lesson includes detailed discussion of concepts along with textbook examples and textbook questions. In the assessment, there are topic-wise online tests in the form of MCQs so that you can do self-assessment of how much you have learned from a given topic. In addition to this, you get topic-wise practice assignments in solved and unsolved format. Unsolved format is for your practice and solved format is to guide you how to write the correct answer. Assignments include questions based on board exam pattern. In addition to topic-wise assignments, chapter-wise question bank with answers is also available. Exam preparation includes all the solved and unsolved previous year's question papers, sample papers, and model test papers. Sign up on Bright Tutee today.
Are we back?
Yes.
Yeah, can I have the PowerPoint? I'm just reading the feedback. So I'm just catching up with chat. It's good to have a feedback. It's good to know that you're on the right track. Yes, I'm continuing. All right. Is this, can you check, Jitin, if there's another slide that we missed? Can you go back? Or can you go back? I just want to make sure that we haven't missed a slide. Okay, the next slide, please. Right. All right. So I've been just reading your feedback. Please keep chatting with me. I am reading all that you are writing. I think it's very important when we are, we must try to be as interactive as we can. It's just not that I'm looking for compliments, but many of you seem to be happy with the way things are going. Very important to know that we are on the right track. Otherwise, I can always make a course correction. Right. So here are a few slides that we talked about earlier about the importance of reading. And then we'll come to how we as parents and teachers get children to read. And then we are also going to come up with some reading strategies. So you're not going to see my face, but for the next maybe half an hour, you're going to look at these slides. You can capture these slides. You can take a picture, or you can ask Goyal brothers to send you this PPT. Right. So readers make leaders. So that's a wonderful slogan. Why should you read? When we talk of leaders, we're not talking of politicians. We're not talking of prime ministers and presidents, right? So let's leave those guys out of the whole picture. I think the kind of leaders that we have in the world today are those that we don't want to follow as examples, right? So when we talk about a leader, who do we mean as a leader? To me, a leader is, it could be anyone. It could be the child sitting at the back of a class, not necessarily someone who's wearing the badge of captain, not the principal or the coordinators of the school. A leader is someone who can think for herself or himself, can make decisions, has empathy, right? So there are so many ways that we identify a leader. Read, I'm just trying to, all right. Now I'm just trying to catch up with some of your comments. I'm just checking if I missed something. Which all right. So read, lead, and succeed. That's the next point we are talking about. Read, lead, and succeed. So if you really want to succeed, if kids want to succeed, they really should read. When we say read, we are talking of any kind of reading, right? We're talking of fiction, we're talking of non-fiction.
Extension क्या है 554?
Slogans, we're talking of reading magazines, anything. You know, when you buy a chocolate bar, you look around and read, you want to know the nutritive value. You buy a toys, you want to know how to use it. You buy a gadget, you have to know how to work it out. So reading is any reading. And when you read, you learn to succeed, because the more you read, as we read the earlier line, the more you read, the more you know. The more you know, the more you grow, the stronger your voice, right? So read, lead, and succeed. Reading skill is important for academic success. This is not what I'm saying it as a teacher. There have been scientific studies which prove you can directly link the reading habit to academic success. And we're not talking of those kids who just mug up what they have said and get grades in the exam and who don't know any content. We're not talking about those who get high marks without knowing what they have learned by heart. So there is a definitive reading habit, because those who read get into the habit of, I can hear voices. I don't know if it's yours. I can hear voices. Can we mute voices?
उसको बोलो भैया बहुत poor service.
I can hear. Can we mute voices? Okay, all right. Right, so this reading skill and academic excellence is linked, because those who read are to read to widen their horizon, to expand, to learn much more than what is in their textbooks, and they automatically become more successful, because they come and they're very successful later also. They're also very successful later in life, because they have this inbuilt need to explore and find knowledge and do research. So when you start reading a storybook when you are in school, you reach that stage in your life where you find your material, you research, you explore, you go onto the internet and you create things. So reading for pleasure adds an educational advantage. Kids are this you have already talked about. It feeds imagination and creativity. Some of you had talked about this. It expands your, we talked that poem when we talked about Frog in the Sea, or a Harry Potter, or Lord of the Rings. I'm just watching Lord of the Rings with my grandchildren, and I'm really writing. So there's so much of values in this book. It's just not fantasy. There's so much of value that kids get from these imaginative books. Helps you to learn new things, expands your worldview. Now, this is a very important aspect, what we have today. We have a prime minister who is asking us to think local, but also go global, right? So while we work local, we go regional, we also think global. In today's world, we cannot exist only in our own country. We have to interact with people of other countries. So worldwide views, empathy, understanding of different cultures, all this comes with reading. It gives you a new perspective. Reading gives you a new perspective, improves your vocabulary. We also talked about it. A very important aspect, increases your emotional intelligence. Increases your emotional intelligence. What's EQ? EQ is your emotional intelligence, how you face life, how you handle things. Right, can we have the next slide, please? EQ is very important as you read. One of the most important things while reading is to feel the book. Sometimes you cry. I must recall a situation I had which really turned me to a spiritual path. I must share this. This was 10 years back. I was I travel a lot on work. I go to schools and do workshops. So I bought this book of Robin Sharma. I think some of you had talked about Robin Sharma. Robin Sharma's books, I just picked up this book, The Saint, the CEO and the Surfer or something like that. I can't remember the title too well. I think it is The Saint, the CEO and the Surfer. So I bought this book and I was browsing through the book and I was sitting in the Bangalore airport and I was just browsing through it and I opened lines and two lines caught my eye. One is it said, believe in these words, stillness, silence, solitude. Robin Sharma writes in this book, somewhere, surround yourself with stillness, silence, and solitude. You know, we live in such a fast-paced world with so much of noise and so much going around our heads. I was 10 years back, I was in this stage wondering what's happening with my life. I was working in corporates and I was earning so much of money, taking 10 flights in a month, but something was missing inside me. So this book, these lines really made a difference. I used to be very chatty, very open, and I still am that now, but I realized the value of stillness, silence, and solitude, right? And it has made me more empathetic, more introspective. In another line we read, it said, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Student is ready, the teacher appears. You know, it was like a quest. So somehow this book started me on my spiritual journey. So every book, some book touches us in some way or the other. So I was telling you the story in connection with emotional intelligence. If a book makes you angry, A Monk Who Sold His Ferrari is also a wonderful book. Robin Sharma's books, they make you think. Again, when you're talking of authors, don't try to tell children this author is better than this, or among the spiritual books, Robin Sharma is here, Shiv Khera is there, Deepak Chopra is higher. I mean, no one is higher or lower. Each of us is on our journey. Each of us reads a book when we can. When you are ready, the book will appear, but just get into the habit of reading. Right. So reading in silence and in isolation gives you focus. This is also a very important aspect of reading. Reading in silence and in isolation. When you're reading quietly, it gives you sharp focus. So we are still with the importance of reading. Explore new places, particularly these words, the genre of imagination. Yes, Malu Jose, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbits, Lord of the Rings, the Harry Potter, Lewis books, C.S. Lewis books. You know, they are all different kind of very imaginative books. And there is so much of deep value in these books. So It's so important that children explore. It's so important that children go, have flights of fantasies, but they should also realize what is fantasy and what is life. So it helps you appreciate reading. Another aspect of reading helps you appreciate things. You value different cultures. You value different people. This is what travel and reading does to you, right? This is what reading and travel does to you. You understand different cultures. We do with great pride, we do say, Mera Bharat Mahan. Mahan to hai. But we must realize that other cultures to their people is also great, right? So we really need to understand. It helps us to understand other people, encourages you to think, helps with decision-making, critical thinking, develops the mind, imparts valuable lessons, makes you a better you, right? A book is a gift you can open and again. Yes, of course. I'm just reading some of your comments. Can we have the next slide, please? So books make readers. So we're getting into this next aspect of how can we get children to read? How can we ourselves start reading? I'm not going to ask you how many read. Many of you said you read, yes, but how many how many of us is reading a habit? It's not picking up, how many of us are serious readers? Books make readers. Khalid Hosseini too is an exemplary writer. Yes. Herman Hesse. Yes. There are lots of authors. Books make readers. I think, how do we get children to read? The first thing is to surround themselves with books. More than toys. I have 2 grandchildren, but we are avoiding guns and mindless toys. And my grandson, who's 5.5, has a big bookshelf already, and his toys are all in baskets somewhere hidden. But what is obvious to him as soon as he opens his eyes is his bookshelf. He is 5 years old, and when we go to bed, he stacks up 10 books for me to read. He says, gives me 10 books and we read one. I get bored, but he says, no, 1, 2. He reads the books, reads as in he can't read, but he knows page and he knows when I have missed. So one of the first things is, if we really want children to read, books make readers. Surround children with books, not surround them with phones. If you look at your houses, TV head, iPads hai, digital, there must be 3 or 4 phones around. So when you have books and when you have children, you have books and you have phones, quite naturally children pick up the phone, but make sure that when you are reading, your phones are okay. A reading readiness is created by books. When there are books around, children automatically pick up books. Parents do not understand, Sushma Rao, parents do not understand the importance of reading. So that's the idea of the webinar. That's why we must we are going on into how we can get parents and teachers to read. All right, so no amount of threats is going to motivate a child. No amount of threats is going to motivate a child. No amount of pick up that book and read. TV off karo, TV band karo, padho. You cannot ask a child to read if you've got the TV remote in your hand. I mean, in our house, in my daughter's house, they do not have they have TVs, but they do not have cable connection because they just want the grandchildren to get into the habit of reading. Once in a while, if they want to watch, they just maybe half an hour they have online classes now for half an hour and 1 hour of TV watching. Otherwise, there's absolutely no TV. It's just reading books. Right, so a child needs to be provided a wide range of books that can stimulate and enrich. Picture books are wonderful. Picture books are wonderful, particularly your parents don't permit us to take phones to read books. Rachit, you don't need to take phones to read books. There are animated books which parents can show these books, can play these books for them. One of my grandson's favorite book is The Hungry Caterpillar, but I only allowed him to watch the video on YouTube after he knew the book well. So the reading comes first and then the animated version comes later. So this is a very important aspect when we're talking of books and we are wondering why children should, we are wondering the habit of buying books. A book is made inexpensive by continuing its use. A book can be read and reread any number of times. I spend a lot of money on books. Every time I travel, I pick up books. Now, what do I do with the books? Some books I keep, and some books which I read once, I donate to a library, right? We are living in a generation where parents spend thousands on children. What can be read to a 12-year-old? Mala, I'm just coming to that, Mala. We're just going to discuss a reading list also. Right, can we go to the next slide, please? How to motivate students to read. We're just coming. Curriculum is fine. Rashi Dua, curriculum is, we're talking about 15 minutes a day. Jitin, can we go to the next slide, please? Right. So someone is asking me, how can children read when they're curriculum? When we're saying reading, we're not talking about children reading endlessly. We're starting as a habit. We ourselves as adults read for an hour. Sometimes when I have nothing to do, I read an entire book in a day when I'm out on a holiday. We're talking about children reading for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, reading them to bed, right? So here are some ideas how teachers and parents, and some of us are parents in this webinar, we could have grandparents. So ideas for us. Reading aloud. Some books are to be eaten, some chewed, and others to be swallowed. Yes, good reading. That's exactly. There are so many wonderful quotations on reading. I'm sure you can all just Google on internet and you will find all that. Right. So I'm just coming now to how our role as teachers and parents or grandparents. How can we get children to read? When I talk about reading, I'm not talking about reading to a child. Is reading to a non-reader, even if they are 10 and 15 and 16. Now, I used to be an English teacher. I used to be an English teacher teaching 11th and 12th standard. And 12th standard was my public class. But every other day I would carry reading material to the class. Every other day I would carry something. I'd walk into a class with a magazine or a book or a story, and I would tell my students, I taught in an all-girls school. I'd say, girls, I just came across this. I just wanted to read something to you. So that's how, as soon as you read a story, or you read, ma'am, where did you get this? Which magazine is it in? And then they want to read that. So reading aloud is the single most important thing you can do to make a child a reader. So now we're coming up to how we can get our children to read. First, read aloud. Read aloud, reading aloud, read a poem. Like I started with reading a poem. I started this webinar reading a poem. I started by giving you lines, 2 poems we read, quotations, which really, so many of you appreciated that. That's a nice way to hook your attention. And then, okay, so read aloud raises the child's confidence and ability to read. Children who are read to, children who read to will read independently, okay? So you read, as I was telling you, my 5-year-old grandson, a book he's familiar with, he says he will read. He cannot read because he's just he hasn't started reading as yet. He just can read small CVC words. But he will open the right page and say the lines and he's pretending he's reading, but he's not reading, right? But that gets him to want to open the book and read. So children who read, who are read to, will later read independently. First step, read to children. Read to even my daughters are in their 30s. So when I talk about something, my daughter will say, read that, what did you say? So I read out even to my daughters who are in their 30s so that they are interested in what I have to say, right? So children will read alone what is read to them, right? Children who handle books independently will learn to read much faster. Something magical happens when kids read the right book at the right time. So when you read the right book, I was telling you about reading the right book at the right time. I was reading this Robin Sharma book in the airport. And something just snapped in me. I just realized that I needed I needed to turn to spirituality. I needed to seek silence. For some reason, I changed as a person. I was telling you about the lines. So this is something, I have read all kinds of books, but for some reason, Robin Sharma's that book left an imprint in my mind when I read about stillness, silence, and solitude. Shared reading helps create a warmth. What's a shared reading? Shared reading is when a grandchild and you sit with your grandchild, or you sit with your children, you sit with your students. And when you're reading a story, it's best to draw children together. Draw children together. Come, let's sit down, make a small little circle, and everyone reads. Right. Give children if you are a parent, you must give your children a few minutes of undivided attention. As I told you, my grandson began to read because my daughter began to read to him. When do you think she began to read to him? Even when she was expecting him. So my daughter was reading to my grandchildren even when she was expecting, even when the baby was inside. And one of the first things that the babies, when they open their eyes, what did they see? Not the TV, not the remote, not digital, but books. And that's how they grew into the habit of reading. Can I have the next slide, please? Right. Parents have the advantage. If we are parents, we have the advantage of being able to pick the moment to share a book. So when you're at home or when you're a teacher, nothing like, I have done this when I was a teacher. I would say just 1 minute, I'll just go to the library and find this book. I mean, there's a teaching moment. You cannot say, I will bring a book tomorrow and I will read. So I quickly say, 1 minute, let me just get that book from the library. I'll tell you which book I was reading. And I would rush to the library, bring that book back and read out something from the book. And immediately, what do you think will happen? But 10 girls at least would say, ma'am, can I have that book after you? So, right, you would just want to get them to read. Right, so enjoying books together, cuddling, laughing together creates a close emotional bond, right? Reading. In our culture, we have the habit of storytelling, which is why we're great storytellers and not readers, I think. Storytelling has a different function. Storytelling, our Amar Chitra Kathas, our Jataka tales, our Panchatantras, our Ramayana, Mahabharata, all these stories, we are sharing to instill values, to make children better human beings. But somehow we must move the child on from storytelling to story reading. Children must know all those wonderful things I'm talking about is all in the books, right? So when my grandson is with me, you can imagine a 5.5, I'm tired by the end of the day and I die when I see 10 books, and he says one book after another. But because I'm an educator, I go through 1 hour of reading, right? And what is strange is that young children, they want to read the same books. Yes, I'm coming to reading strategies. Gen Z John, I'm just coming. So parents represents, okay, close involvement with the child will reveal many difficulties. Parents are involved with child's reading right from the beginning. When parents see the satisfaction and delight, they get children on to read. Right, so let's go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so parents who have varying levels of education themselves have shown to be not too keen. Okay, I think we'll just skip this. We'll get on to get your child to read to lead tomorrow. Help build a library. So we're repeating some of these. Can we go to the next slide? Can we go to the next slide? I think you're having problems with your, right. No, the next slide, You've gone back. You have to go to the next slide. Okay. So here are some reading related activities, some strategies that we can do. If we want children to read, there are a few more coming up. So one of the first things, as we discussed, is to read aloud. One of the most important things is to read aloud. Encourage children to read. So there are look at the kind of things that children are reading. They're reading books. They could also be reading, blurbs. Choral reading. What is choral reading? Choral reading is getting children to read together. So sometimes you have lines in a poem which keep repeating themselves. Sometimes you have lines like, say, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of us all? So lines like that, you can engage your whole class. You engage the whole class to read. You can get children to illustrate passages. Reading comprehension. Sometimes when you give them a reading comprehension, you give them a passage, give them questions so that they read through skimming and scanning some of the reading strategies. And what's also important is you can ask them to illustrate. Kids are also interested in drawing. Give them a part of a story. Give them a part of a story and ask them to draw pictures for that. It works both ways. Sometimes you can have a picture, look at the illustrations in a book and ask the children, what do you think is happening here? Children can tell their own story looking at the pictures. It works the other way around. When you give them a passage, give them a part of a book and ask them to draw. Some suggestions are also to redo the book cover. Look at the book, show them the book and say, what do you think this book is about? Look at the title of the book. What do you think this book is telling us? If you were to change the book cover, how would you redo the book cover? A Hungry Caterpillar or any book, redo the cover. How do you imagine the cover? Sometimes you can also show them the book both ways, the cover and the blurb of the book, and ask them, what do you make of the book? All these things that you are doing is just to motivate them. Yes, exactly. It is to motivate them. It is to get them to read. It is more, you are motivating them to, you want to know, you are predicting what's going to happen. You can hold book quizzes. You can do role plays, mimes, puppetry, book talk, book reviews, book summary, book comprehensions. All these are things that you can do to get children to read. Can we have the next slide, please? Right. So these are some other activities which we do. And after this, we are going on to how you can really create the atmosphere for children to read. One of the activities that I used to do in schools is called the reading worm. You get every child in a class, you get yes, someone is saying don't judge a book by its cover. Yes, Daksha, don't judge a book by its cover. Exactly. So you can ask them to predict, and then you can ask them to read and clarify, was it a book by its cover? Right. So the reading worm activity these are activities for schools. If there are 30 kids in a class, if 30 kids read a book, they do a review of a book. They do a review of a book. You could do it in the format of a worm. You can do a short review of it, and you can link it all up. You can make it like a worm. You can make it like a mobile or put it up. So everyone gets to read the blurbs, or everyone gets to read the review, or everyone gets to read the summary of 40 to 50 books. And they said, oh, this book is nice. I would like to read that book. Your book or mine is another activity we used to do when we were in Scholastic. If two kids have read a book, including the teacher, you can swap a book. You can share with someone the story of a book, and you can ask them, can you tell me the story of your book? What is your book about? Two kids meeting and saying, this is the book I read, and this is the book that I have read, and they can exchange their books. Write a picture. Sometimes it's nice to just put up a picture. This is a good way to get children to put up a picture from a storybook. Put up a picture from a storybook and ask them to write the story. Ask them to write. Another nice activity which I used to do when I was a teacher in school is I would put up a picture from a well-known book, and I would say 1/3 of the class, this is the beginning of your this is the beginning of your story, and another class I'd say this is the middle of your story, and to the next batch I would say this is the end of your story. So what do kids do with that? So it's the same picture, but they start at, and then you can compare. So there are so many ideas that you can do, and everything the whole idea behind it is, how do I get my child to pick up a book and read? Readathon, we used to have these kind of activities where we would get, someone is saying that you are doing online classes. Yes. So some of these ideas are for online right now, where you can put up a picture, get children to read. You can read, if it's an English class or a language class, reading out a story. I'm also recording stories for publishers where we like an ebook where children can just listen to your stories. So there's something called Dear Time, which I'm sure is happening in some school. This is something we started somewhere in the late. Dear stands for drop everything and read. Drop everything and read. DEAR starts, we used to do these activities when I was a teacher, and even when I was in Scholastic, we used to, I'm sure Scholastic still does that. At a given time, everyone drops everything, picks up a storybook and reads. So imagine you walk into a school and there's deathly silence because everyone is reading, everyone is speaking up. So for about half an hour, we used to specify half an hour. For half an hour, everyone drops DEAR, drop everything and read. So right from the principal till even the workers of the school would pick up a book. All this is to create that energy. All this is to create that, the love for books. Right. So another strategy is to get readers to help non-readers. So we're talking about the different ways that we can get children to read. Readers help non-readers. So this idea I got from a school. When I went to a certain school, the teacher told me that when it comes to reading time, she pairs a reader with a non-reader, which means there are some children who read, some can't even pick up a book because they haven't got. So the reader takes a storybook from the library. In fact, this class used to have a basket of books in the classroom. They had a basket of books in the classroom. And these are not very expensive books. These were books which I'm talking about, you can look at National Book Trust, Children's Book Trust, CBT, NBT. There are so many picture books. There are so many books which are available, which are quite low priced. Books must be accessible to children. Books must, you should be able to pick up the books and read it yourself. So children, when they finish their activity, they would pick up a book, sit, and a non-reader will sit with the reader, and the reader will read to the non-reader, right? So it's not just the teacher reading. Sometimes you can get children to read. Book corners. Some of the book fairs we used to hold those days when we were in Scholastic, I'm talking about, we started Scholastic in 1998, 1997. We used to have reading corners in school. So in the next couple of slides, I have the reading corner. We will discuss the reading corner. It's nice to create a reading corner in your classrooms. In fact, when I was a teacher, I started this in the primary classes. Literally, we put cushions on the floor, make it comfortable to children, have a basket of books, not just children sitting in their desks and reading, but when a child finished her work or his work, he would go to the corner, take a book, and sit in a dhari or sit on cushions. And there were some teachers who even hung a lamp on top like a spotlight, create that very cozy corner which children would go sit and read. The author's chair, of course, you can have author visits. Authors can be invited to read. Another nice idea that I found in school is a wall magazine. A wall magazine is an stretch of a wall, an entire stretch of a wall where you have bulletin boards which make announcements. You have an entire stretch of a wall where you can put up different kinds of reading material. I know a school in Madurai which has a storybook. They have a stand for newspapers. They also have stands for storybooks. So a wall magazine is an entire stretch of wall. You put up, this ghada cloth and pin up material for them to read. It could be quizzes, it could be stories, it could be, it could be information, it could be articles, so many things. And it could be things that teachers read, the children read. It's a mixed kind of reading. Ultimately, what is the idea? And it should be eye level. Everything should be eye level. I have gone to school bulletin boards and craned my neck and tried to read something which is right on top, which is quite useless. So any reading material, it should be eye level. Right, can we have the next slide, please? We've got another 10, 15 minutes to go and we will wrap up. Let me just take a look at the chats to see if you have, I've been reading up your chats for questions. Right, I'm just looking at your chats. I've been following it up. Online classes, children are not listening. Well, if children are not listening in online classes, you should teach in a way that they can listen to you. Okay, right. Providing accolades to kids on, yes, successful reading, right? You know, those days when I was, a teacher, we only gave books. We only gave books as gifts. We did not give other things. May I send you my poem, Ishpreet Kaur? Yes, please. Ishpreet, you have a poem that you can send, please. Goyal. All right. Now, library is fun. We can create a home library. How to encourage at the time of COVID? They are not listening. Why are they not listening? Please open my chat, Hemlata Rati, to me. I will. I'll just check that in a minute. Children do not like to read. That's what this whole thing is about, to get them to read. All right. See, one of the things was when I'm just coming, Minu Arora, we're just talking about reading lists. We're just coming up shortly with reading lists. If you are a librarian, whether you're a librarian at school or you have a library at home, one of the first rules is that the role of a librarian, she's not a custodian of books. Don't keep them under lock and key and say, don't touch that cupboard. You know, reading books is meant to be read. Keep the cupboards open. Don't keep things under lock and key. In fact, schools allow you, if there are some percentage of books which are damaged and lost, it's fine. So first of all, when you're creating a reading room or a reading library, it should be bright and well lit. Lighting is very important. Keep a library even at home. I'm talking of your home library or even library in schools. Open low wooden shelves, make it easy for kids to pick it up. I really don't understand where books are locked up in glass cupboards. In libraries or in reading corners, it's wonderful to have open access is most important. Mala Bhavnani, I'm very true. Missing a fact which leads to okay, all right. So potted plants, it's nice to create a lovely atmosphere. Potted plants, stuffed toys, even in a school library. School reading clubs, Meenakshi Narula, we have reading clubs in school as well, yes. Now, one part of the school library, later when schools open, they will open sometime. It's not that we are going to be under COVID all our lives. Even my little corner at home, I have potted plants, have stuffed toys. It's nice to create a very cozy atmosphere where children really can read, or when you can read. Child-friendly, colorful signboards and category markers. Have very friendly ways. Encourage children to put books back. The library must have books that kids can read, not just that books that you ought to read. I joined a school as a teacher in 1980. It was a convent. The library was full of classics, hardbound, I could only see books, brown, brown, brown. And my principal, I was 1980, I think it was 24 or 25. You can calculate my age. My principal said, I want the children to read. I want them to read. So what do we do? I said, first of all, remove these horrible shelves, keep open shelves. Children should be able to read. And I said, you know, these hardbound books are meant for lawyers. What we do is with all the books, they are bound in brown and, you know, children can't look at the covers. They cannot look at this. So it's very important that you have books that children love to read. They are drawn to read, and not just books that teachers want children to read. Books must be they must be in their original binding and not just bound in brown paper. Yeah, can we have the next slide, please? Have low price books on low tables. You know, we're talking about baskets, have baskets, have a set of books in your class for children to read. You don't need to have full books. You can even have comprehension passages. You can have different kinds of reading material. You can have magazines as you go for older classes. You could have sports magazines. You could have, you know, articles, poems, which you can just kind of laminate and keep there. So don't have to, when we say reading, they all just don't have to be books that you read. So have a newspaper and magazine rack. I would avoid very high funda reading, highbrow reading, you know, material. You could have one shelf for teachers or one shelf which is for a higher level of reading, but never make a child feel diffident, make a child feel that he or she cannot read something. It's good to have good slogans, good posters. It's nice to just brighten up the class. So have reading corners. You can even invite parents to come and read to children. Parents can come and read to children. Right, is there another slide? I think this is the last slide. Right. So I'm just going to share with you some reading lists. Can we have those reading lists out, Jitin? I'm just checking for.
Let me just check with him, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just looking for the reading list. I'm just reading your comments.
He's just sharing the screen, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So we can start with this. Okay. Here is some of the books for classes 5 to 6. Right? So there are lots of reading lists available on the internet. CBSE has come out with its own reading list. ICSE has its own reading list. You can Google, if you are looking for books, just Google the age that you are looking for. I don't have 1 to 4 because for 1 to 4, there are lovely story books, there are lovely picture books. There are wonderful picture books. You go to any of these stores, you have wonderful picture books. You just need to go to the kids section, whether it is Star Mart or Crosswords or any of these books. There are wonderful pictures. There are lovely animation material. There are lovely stories. You just need to Google stories for 5-year-olds, stories for 6-year-olds, stories for 4-year-olds. There are many lovely animated. And now with COVID and now with online classes, on my Facebook, I see so many such apps, so many companies are now offering. You just need to look for them. Just Google for companies which are offering online animated storybooks. Now, the trouble with animated storybooks is that you don't want children to just, I'm just keeping a track of time. We've just got about, say, about 10 minutes to go. Try to draw a balance between children reading hard, you know, physical books rather than just digital. Digital, they go to next. Let them read books first. It's good to invest in books. I know that we say, what do we do with books? Well, I have books of my children, which my grandson is now reading. And there are sets and sets of books which we have put away for the next generation to read. We are also cutting down on digital time with online classes. We cannot have children watch too much of animated, but getting children to watch stories and animation is good. Getting them to watch movies is good. It works both ways. My children watched the Harry Potter years back. They watched the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, and then later they read their books, right? So for 5 to 6, Enid Blyton, not just the Noddy series, there are books out there. There is a famous 5, the Secret 7, the River of Adventure. Enid Blyton is what I grew up with, right? And that Enid Blyton is really timeless. Of course, we have Panchatantra, and we have the entire range from our culture, Panchatantra, Jataka, and the tales of Ramayana, the Chandamama comics. There are so many Kadadi tales. Kadadi Tales is doing a wonderful job. They have storybooks, they have ebooks, they have audio books, they have programs. Wind in the Willows, Winnie the Pooh. We've heard so much about all these books. Gulliver's Travels, Oscar Wilde, not just the Happy Prince, the other books of Oscar Wilde, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Roald Dahl, right. So these are just a few of the books, but for a wider reading list, you can just Google. I look at the ICSC, what ICSC is recommending, what NCERT is recommending, what CBSE is recommending. I've taken all this from the Google sites. Right, can I have the next slide, please? This is for class 5 to 6. Let's look at the slides of class 7 to 8. 7 to 8, of course, we're talking of Mark Twain. It says there's a Kindle version. This is from the CBSE website. These are the books that CBSE is recommending. There is also the ICSE version. There is also the international version. There are international recommendations, but I have taken the CBSE from the website. Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Treasure Island, Around the World in 80 Days, H.G. Wells, Harry Potter series. You can add the J.R.R. Tolkien, which is the Lord of the Rings series, Roald Dahl. So if you take short stories, let's finish it and we will wrap up. Can I have the next slide, please? Class 9 and 10, Agatha Christie, Arthur Conan Doyle, which is your Sherlock Holmes. Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond is timeless. Ruskin Bond, children read Ruskin Bond. At my age, I love Ruskin Bond. His stories, his short stories are wonderful. Little Women, Louisa M. Alcott. If you notice, most of these are classics. So as an English teacher, we want our children to read classics, but children cannot get to read classics if they do not read what they want to read, right? So I have friends who are such high intellectual people, but who are very happy to read Jeffrey Archer and Dan Brown and Baldacci and any of these modern fiction, which is fine. I mean, there's no saying, we want children to read. Don't bother about the quality of reading. Once they get hooked onto reading, they automatically graduate to better reading. So the Canterville Ghosts, again, there is Ruskin Bond. Here, CBS has given you a very specific list. Artemis Fowl. So this is your P.G. Wodehouse. Look at the genre again. You have humor, you have fiction, you have fantasy. It's a mix of everything. Can I have the next slide? Right, G.K. Chesterton, Father Brown. This is for higher classes. You can take pictures of these, or you can ask Goyal brothers to send you. Bronte sisters, Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights, to date is my best book. Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, Pickwick Papers, Charles Dickens, the Victorian novelists. Right. Can I have the next slide? There is one more general reading. There is, Maitreyi, have you missed out one? It doesn't matter. There is a general reading list. So short stories is wonderful for kids to read. You have lots of Indian short stories, historical stories, and it's good to encourage children to go on to book fairs, pick up a book. If we want kids to read, I think it's nice to take them to a bookstore, guide them to read. We want children to pick up books which are appropriate for them. So it's like you negotiate. You pick up one book which you would like them to read, and they pick up a book that they would like to read. Right. So it's close to closing time.
Yes, ma'am. It is 5:30.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know about the slide, but
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for such a wonderful session. Thank you to all our audience who've been there with us. And if there are any queries which you would like to ask, you can type it in the chat box. We'll try to take it up in the next 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. Does anyone have any specific questions? I've been following up and I've been following and.
Jitin, could you just check if the chat is... Jitin, you there?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm making it public.
Yes, make it public, please.
There is some problem with the system. Just give me a...
Yeah, I have been kind of following the...
Yes, so the chat is public now. Teachers can come in.
So everyone says thank you for such an enriching session.
Right. Let me just wrap up with a couple of lines. So we started off with the importance of reading. I think there's quite a bit of why we should read, how we should read. Teachers, be an example. Be an example. Be seen with a book in your hand. Be seen with a book in your hand. Surround your class with books. You know, with all the online learning, don't worry too much about portions to cover. CBSE is going to cover 30% of your curriculum. Take some extra reading to class. Read something just like that. Read a poem. Read the lyrics of a song. I think music can also be blended beautifully. You know, I remember while teaching adjectives, I would play the song from 1948, 7 or 8 love story. Ek ladki ko dekha to aisa hua, aisa. You know, there's so many imagery. There's so much of similes which keep coming in. So it's wonderful. So be seen with a book, read aloud to children, encourage them to read, build their confidence in reading, create a reading atmosphere, create a lovely reading corner, make your library very, very open, a delightful place for kids to read. Yes, silence must be maintained, but open it up to them. Let them enjoy coming into the library. Let there not be a strict librarian who's telling them, don't touch the books, don't tear the pages. Doesn't matter if books are torn, right? As long as children pick up books and read, right? So thank you very much. Thank you, Maitreyi.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, teachers.